And this one's a competitive game where players take on the role of political operatives who each start with their own secret agenda card at the start of the game, outlining the legislation that they need to pass in order to gain points. The way the game works is that each player starts the game with some legislation cards as well as some starting cash, and then each round you're going to be playing your legislation cards into 3 different bills. These are represented by columns of cards, with each column having just 3 cards, 2 of them face up and 1 of them face down. And the way that those are created is that players just take turns placing one of their legislation cards into any of those 3 stacks as they choose. After that's completed, players are going to be taking turns putting their vote tokens out on the different bills, voting on the one that they think should be removed. But while this is happening, players can negotiate and try to convince the other players to vote where they want them to. But if that doesn't quite work as you'd hoped, players can also use actions after all the voting tokens have been placed out, spending money in order to do things like move vote tokens somewhere else, or even modify the cards in various ways. This is going to end up with one of those columns discarded, and then you move into the next phase where you're going through the exact same sequence of events, except for this time you're voting on which column to keep. Once that's decided, you're going to be taking all those cards, including the face down one, and revealing it, and then putting those cards into stacks depending on the type of legislation that they are. Once any of those stacks reaches at least 5 points, then that's going to be triggering the final rounds of the game, where players are trying to get the most points of their specific legislation type by the end of the game. But if any player is able to reach 10 points before that happens, then the game instantly comes to the end with that player being the winner. Each player does get additional money every single round, allowing you to continue to take those various actions. And a really nice aspect of this game is that you can also just reveal your secret agenda in order to gain access to its special abilities, which I think is a really nice aspect to this game. It's something that can be very powerful, but you'll also want to be strategic when you do that because it's going to be revealing to all the other players which type of legislation you are going for, giving you a huge disadvantage at the same time. But if you do it right, it can be a great way to win the game. If that sounds interesting to you, I will have this one linked in the description down below.